Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the best Zerg player this side of the Atlantic. In the red, it's Scarlett, facing off against the most relatable Terran player, the recent GSL finalist, the People's Terran in the blue. It's Team Liquid's Cure. In a best of 3 Terran versus Zerg showdown between two players whose strategies almost always revolve around quantity, sometimes at the expense of quality. But I can't disagree with the results, especially not as I'm about to ask you to smash that like button. Maybe even subscribe. Help me count the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? Yes, the quantity. 1,645 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than these first Zerglings, drones, and soon-to-be queen, as Kira goes about the business of mildly to moderately inconveniencing the Zerg in the early game. In fact, usually the first 5 to maybe even 7 minutes of a good Terran versus Zerg macro build revolves around emotionally and physically damaging the Zerg as much as possible, trying to limit the creep spread, force out the Zerglings, delay bases, and maybe even snipe off queens. Those are all on the agenda, usually before taking any sort of direct full-on engagement. But Cure, unable to intimidate Scarlett. She actually dropped a creep tumor with the very first queen, not allowing the Reaper to snipe it off. And I think Scarlett holds the somewhat awkwardly phrased title of best creeper in the world, even above Cyril. The priority she puts on getting that creep spread out there sometimes makes up for lacks in usually just the sheer amount of units early on. When you have the creep, you have vision. Now, important to note, it's the creep tumors that provide vision, but the creep itself is essentially a 30% speed buff for every Zerg unit, besides the queen, which is slightly more. But having that much creep out on the field, even if you didn't have your keyboard plugged in at the start of the game, apparently, or whatever the issue was, is sometimes the key to victory, even if you're struggling in other areas. Now, I think that's a little unfair. But then again, if you're being compared to Cyril and coming out ahead in any way, I think that still ends up being a compliment, a net compliment. We'll see if we have any of those for Cure as time goes on, because Cure, on the other side of things as well, is like generic brand Clem. Even his name, Team Liquid's Cure. All right. Apparently, he wanted to name himself Antidote and regrets not doing so, according to a GSL interview from some years ago. So who knows? That might be apocryphal. And he thought it would be cooler, but he just went with Cure because everyone knows if you're going to be a Korean pro gamer, you have to have a name that is 4 letters long. Okay, that's just a science fact. All right, Maru, Life, Beyond, Stats, Zest, Dark, and some exceptions to the rule, but Cure abiding by it and adding to the list. But his strategy is high percentage plays. Whole bunch of Marines, plenty of medevacs, some siege tanks, and I wouldn't be surprised to see ghosts. Wow, the creep spread is going so fast. Cure did not go for Hellions. He did not go for Banshees, which means there's nothing to control it except the medevacs. And that is going to be a lot to contend with as Scarlett. Okay, got 2 Hellions, which is not enough to actually keep Scarlett from diving in with some Zerglings. Knocks out a couple SCVs, but she's already at over almost 70 drones. Gets into the main base, will get a spot, confirms, yeah, it's not going to be mech, obviously, and here come the Marines. Dropping out of the medevacs outside the 4th base, the Queen's moving in to defend. Pre-scans to deny the creep as much as possible, but the Queens will gather. The Queen's moot has arrived, but the Marines do not have +1 attack, which means the armor on the Queens is enough to help defend, and with that much energy for transfuse, the Marines are mostly rebuffed. Another dozen drones, that seems a bit gratuitous, but then again, that's a Scarlett, so. Double evolution chamber in the main. Ranged attack and carapace are the choice for upgrades. Going to be a mass roach composition. No Hydralisk and no infestation pit quite yet. Scarlett has been leaning on the infestation pit as well as lurker timings somewhat recently, playing more often. Scarlett also the balance designer for Zero Space, which in my opinion is the most original and promising of the generic brand StarCrafts out there that you may have heard of. No, it's got some original idea. But moving on. We'll argue about this on the next Zero Space video. Combat shield finishing up alongside the 1-1. But Cure has barely been able to put any pressure on. Did not deny the 4th base. Didn't really push back much creep. It's already extending onto Cure's side of the map as it goes past the mixed blue-gold base. Double drop headed out. Infestation pit is on the way. Not going to be the quickest hive ever, assuming that's the direction she goes with it, but certainly not slow. At a rapid pace. And 1-1 on the way. There's not enough Marines to cut through. Infestors and hive in production as Scarlett metabolizing quickly here and evolving past what Cure is able to deal with. The medevacs and Marines are not really enough. There's spores on the perimeter, almost enough. Knocks a medevac out of the sky with all hands. Not expecting the perimeter spores. Those 3 people who always make the comment about putting spores on the edge of your base. Why don't more Zergs do this? Well, there you go. Even another one on the edge. And the fact that she put them completely at the edge as opposed to a little further in just to zone out is what took out one of the medevacs. Cure would have reacted fast enough otherwise, but clearly not anticipating that level of defense. Scarlett is at 90 drones at 8 minutes. With Hive and Infestors on the way. The Roach is going to be cut down, though. The Marines scaling with their upgrades incredibly well. A whole bunch of Zerglings in production. Baneling nest on the way. Eventually, Lings and Banes are the choice as the hatchery gets taken out. Roaches are more of a biomass shield. They're to put something out in front, help take out siege tanks, but they aren't really the ideal composition. It's just, well, they also combine with Roaches and Ravagers quite well as well. Scarlett grabs some Marines and rips them apart. So far, Cure completely shut down across the board, and Scarlett has all the economy you could ever ask for. Baneling speed on the way, +2 Carapace, +1 melee attack is now in production, and an Ultralisk Cavern 9 minutes into the game. Well, now a great man once said, when I'm ahead and I want to lose, I build Ultras. But Ultras, nowadays, have a little more strength, a little more stopping power. They don't trip over the friendly units nearly as much. And most importantly, Scarlett is going to have 5 bases while she pressures the 3rd. Cure did not... Oh my, the fungal. Not enough to kill the Marines, but stop them from going any further. Cure coming around the right side. +2 completed now for the Marines. And I would say Marauders. Okay, looks like they're hitting the field as well. Chitinous plating is on the way. The Ultralisk will be online by the time there's any hint of Liberators or Ghosts. Marauders are pretty good. Widow Mines can be even better. But overall, with this sort of economy that Scarlett has, a massive, at least a 1 base lead, and already starting to bank money. Well, so is Cure, now that we look at it. But Cure is doing very little to keep Scarlett from mass expanding. Kind of misses the mark on the corrosive bile, which will cost these queens a significant chunk of their lives. The medevacs just casually stroll through the corrosive bile and almost get knocked down on the way out, but another attack to the north side. Cure will take out the base. But... Get off my creep! Revenge! Oh my, the queen actually able to take out multiple medevacs, some with Marines inside, as Cure lackadaisical on the micro, focusing more on the slow push on the left side. And that is Cure's biggest weakness. He's not Clem, but he has so many units. The Widow Mines are devastating. Vipers, do they have enough energy for Parasitic Bomb? Not quite. They're going to drag it out of the hatchery, which is a bit of a precarious move, but consuming the hatchery in order to potentially get a Parabomb. There are 6 Ultras in production, a couple popping out of the eggs. Don't even ask how that works, but 6 Ultralisk is a lot of weight to throw around. Though Cure is maxed out and starting to add more and more Marauders into the composition, 5 at a time. The creep spread is almost denying the 6 o'clock base. It's not quite there yet, but Cure's going to have to spend so many scans that he can't really afford. He's only on 3 orbital commands. He doesn't have that iron bank that Terran players so often end up with in the extreme late game. Trying to drag out the Widow Mines. They're getting a quite a healthy chunk of Zerglings. But the Ultras, not being micro against, just chewing through Marines and Marauders. This base almost taken out by the Vipers. Parasitic Bomb Cure! Quarantine's a little bit late. We'll likely lose a couple of these medevacs as he flies off dramatically into the sunset. 1 Ultra down, make that 2, but 2 more come up to replace them. The Spore Crawler providing... The Corrosive Biles, not exactly precise, but Ultras and Banelings don't have to be. They're going to chew through the Widow Mines. Cure swinging over to the right side. It's not about how many men, how many Marines, how many Marauders, how many medevacs, how many mines you lose, but it's about how much M&M you have to replace them. And right now, Cure is still maxed out with 100 army supply. Both of them at 80 workers apiece. Scarlett expanding out the tech tree. Nidus, Spire on the way. Meanwhile, Cure staying directly down his lane and sprinkling in a few ghosts for flavor. 5 ghosts now in production as Cure continues to work both angles. The Ultras sprints into them. The Ultras unable to chew through the bio before it guns them down. And it doesn't matter whether you have a tiny bunch of angry, heavily clawed dogs or massive war beasts. A bunch of dudes with drugs, guns, and a hatred of illegal aliens is enough to take them out, at least for now. Cure making me feel right at home, but Scarlett! Oh, Shin. She does not have adrenal glands. A medium mistake at this phase of the game. There haven't been that many Zerglings, and they aren't really the main damage dealers, but as time goes on, it's one of those upgrades that when you have 2,800 in the bank, you're wondering whether you should have gotten it earlier. There's a fusion core on the way, and that will be scouted by Scarlett with the Nidus at the back. Cure suffering from success. He is maxed out, and he's not noticing the Nidus. Absolutely nothing sent back to defend. Going to blindside him in the midst of his own base. But Scarlett, I don't think, was expecting this to do so well. She had nothing in the Nidus. It's a decoy. It's a fake. Scarlett going to slam into 2 bases at once as Cure goes back to defend. Ultras and Banelings on either side. Corrosive Biles raining down. The 3rd base. Ultras working on the wall, giving Cure enough time to come back and potentially defend. But still, Scarlett making a significant amount of progress. Definitely missing the mark on the amount of damage she could have done if the Ultras were attacking the worker line. But the ghosts are drawn over to the left side. The army is scouted on the right. Burrow festers. Cyril festers out there. The creep spread still extending to the bases that Cure wants to take. 2 more Ultras on the way. So far, 9 Ultras have been lost, and Scarlett showing no intentions of stopping production. Fungal holds down the Ghost. The Banelings roll in and melt right through the vast majority of the front line. A wave of Corrosive Biles is whipped out, but enough repair. Scarlett drops 50 supply, adds more Ultras into the production tab, which is becoming a bit of an Ultra risk at this point. Very, very dead Overseer. More Infestors on the way. Notably, no Liberators for Cure. Wow. Scarlett knocking out some of the minerals with the destructible rocks. They do not get uncovered. They're crushed. Minerals are surprisingly fragile. All right. Well, despite the fact you can't actually go through them, rocks can. But the minerals themselves, only the lowly worker can usually deal with them. You should really just make walls out of minerals. Two more factories on the way. You're not going for the Liberator-based production. I think Scarlett was anticipating a switch to Mass Liberator. That's usually what the late game looks like. Ghosts and Liberators and maybe a few other units in between. But Cure is taking us to McDonald's instead. Blinding Clouds on the back line. The Ultras just cutting through the blade. There's so many Ultralisks. Takes down a couple of the medevacs with Corrosive Bow. The Ravagers almost shooting themselves with it. Zerglings in the main. A Nidus in the exact same spot as before. But Cure did not have the Nidus defense team at home to defend. The Ultras eviscerating more of the Marines and Marauders. And quantity certainly has a quality all its own as Scarlett is sitting on 7-8 bases, losing dozens of Ultralisks. 17 dead so far. Pops into the Nidus, pops out. The Armory may very well burn if Cure doesn't pay attention here for a moment. Liberators, but the Armory just before +3 mech plating. Oh, that is a moderate upgrade to lose. Losing +3 mech plating certainly doesn't help. Here, continually barraged by Ultras, Lings, and Banes. Still plenty of Ravagers to help bring things down. Firing over the top into the SCVs on the gold minerals. You're down to 64 of them. Not exactly a critically low number, especially when this base only has half the minerals it could. Scarlett has the same base on the other side, and is now expanding to the bottom right corner. The Liberators added in somewhat begrudgingly, I feel, back here. The Nidus providing creep as well as Overlord drop. Scarlett with a variety of creep flavors here. Alright, not just sticking to one. Any good creeper knows. Vary your tactics, you become predictable. Ultras! Going through the alleyways of the base here. A fungal holds some more in place. Parasitic Bomb, Wombo combo, another set of fungals. Cure desperately trying to defend. Another 20 SCVs are massacred by the Ultralisks. Drop up to the north side will actually be spotted by the Burrowed Infester. But maybe not in time to save the base. Scarlett burrows a Zergling to block the third from re-landing. And most importantly, Cure doesn't have that orbital count. Only 4 orbital commands, which means he's heavily split between scans and mules. And now that Cure is down to 44 SCVs, that's an even harder decision. The Ravagers getting popped like overripe tomatoes. The Corrosive Biles will reign their last. 38 more Banelings on the way, as Scarlett loads up for another battering ram slam across the map. The creep spread is most of the way. It's literally on top of the mineral line that Cure is trying to mine from. Cure picks up a drop to go clear the creep, and he lands it in his front lawn. Another Nidus from the Burrowed Ling, partially used as a distraction. +2 flyer attacking Carapace in production. But Cure is getting smothered right now. 194 to 157 supply. He has the right late game army. It took a little long to get there, but this is the army you're supposed to have. Ghosts and Liberators and whatever you can put in between. A dozen Ghosts, 7 Liberators. Advanced Ballistics never finished. No Caduceus reactor for medevac energy recharge. Because the fusion core was taken out by the... No. Much like Scarlett and Adrenal Glands. Cure just never got the... Well, this is awkward. Terran, do you want to handle this one? Yes. Hello, I'm Karen. I'm from the Hatchery Owners Association, and this is restricted lair space, you bitch. Karen, you're going off script. We're gonna get demonetized. Well, he's a Terran. All right, he deserves... Sorry, I blacked out there. More Ravagers added in. The snipes. A volley fire across the board, wiping out even more Ultras. But yet not enough. How many Ultras? 25 Ultras have died. And there's more to go. As Scarlett unable... Is this a scouting command center now? Cure, you have a fusion core. Cure, clearly forgot he built the first fusion core. It actually wasn't taken out by anything out of the Nidus. But in a bit of a panic, truly wanting those fusion core upgrades, which are an immense bonus, not only to the units themselves, but the fact you need less of them to do the same thing. And at this stage of the game, having more medevac energy regen, having more liberator range is an absolute premium. And the cost of the upgrade is a tiny fraction of the value gained. Both the upgrades 100 and 150 apiece. Scarlett pulls out the Liberators into the Corruptors. We'll knock them down on the back line. The Infestors doing some quick push-ups. Microbial Shroud in order to reduce the Liberator damage. An actual effective use of Microbial Shroud, which you might need a reminder, reduces the damage taken by ground units from air units by 50%. Yes, not against spells, not against ground units. In the specific scenario of having Ultralisk getting hit by Liberator fire, I don't think it lets a Zergling survive a Liberator hit. I doubt there's much that does that, but it allows the Ultras to survive more Liberator shots. Now, was it intentional? I'm not 100% sure, but if it was one of the few times it's a valid use case, so you know what? I'll take it. But Scarlett like, sir. Ooh, the Widowmine with a big hit. Here with nearly equal army supply, but the army pre-MP on the Infestors before they get close. Another volley of snipes. The Ultras brought low, and every single one of them is taken down, and 6 more enter production. Oh. Scarlett with enough in the bank for another round of Ultras, though this will probably be the end of it if Cure's able to take them out. Well, then Scarlett is in a much tougher situation economically. The command center and the hatchery taken down. Scarlett has lost 10,000 more resources, but she's mined 12,000 more minerals and 5,000 more gas. So far she can afford it. But if Cure's able to get another base, well, the trade deficit becomes a little more concerning here. Macro hatches. No adrenal glands. It may be one of those games where if it comes down to it, that lack of adrenal glands. Not a huge difference in every fight, but 1 or 2 more ghosts here or there is, it adds up. There are 5 Ultras. 30 have died. That single Zergling that was previously burrowed takes out the depot. Parasitic Bomb, not risking a snipe on the Corruptors. Not sure that... Okay, I guess you can repair. Scarlett right on the edge of the sensor tower. Cure is all bottled up. Knows there's Zerg out there, but it's just so much more intimidating from Cure's perspective. The entire map, there's creep on the doorstep that he can't reliably take out. Every single little bit outside of the base. The Widowmine, oh, 15 kills. And with a Liberator, just a bit too much to deal with. But Cure is completely broken. Scarlett, all that's left is to break him. What is it? The Zerglings unloading. Taking out refineries, which have no gas left in them, which is probably the most useless thing they could possibly do, but, you know, killing the Ghost Academy is definitely significantly more value. Cure does have building armor. I think it's very visible here. Meanwhile, Parasitic Bomb seems like it took out a couple more Liberators, but here come the Ultras yet again. Trying to use any sort of distraction. Ultras trundling through. Fungal down the center. Corruptors over the top. Liberators will be taken down. The Ultras cleaving through. The Ghosts line up their shots, but there's just not enough of them. But this 6 more Ultras in production. And the Ghosts eviscerated. They ran out of energy and space in the front. Maybe line up another shot. But the Corruptors will melt a command center, and Cure is just running out of minerals, gas, and supply. Never got the fusion core upgrades despite having 2 of them. 8 Ultras in production. Scarlett knows what she wants, and she has the money to get it. With creep spread over 2/3 of the map, with 8 more Ultras in production after 36 joined the units lost tab after 26 minutes. Scarlett finally smothers Cure. Honestly, at no point besides maybe some of those first attacks did it look like Cure really had a chance to fight back. Scarlett drowning him in a sea of creep and ultras. And not making it look easy, certainly, but making it look inevitable, inexorable, nearly unstoppable. I think Cure a bit reluctant to shift out of that bio style into a much more mechanically oriented army, despite adding all those sorts of upgrades and production facilities. And it's that lack of flexibility that comes back to bite him this time around. Game 2. Leylons. Scarlett with a surprising 1-0 lead over Cure. Honestly, going in, I expected probably good games that, to be honest, result in Scarlett losing a dramatic series, but Cure, the previous GSL season finalist against Hero, some of the most dramatic games, though more early game focused, taking out several Zergs to get there. I think it's partially Scarlett's commitment to Ultras. Ultras look really good right up until they really don't. But at some point, if it works, well, you look like a genius. Clearly, the Ultras are the play. They just can't micro again. But then you lose like 7-8 Ultras and kill 4 SCVs and a Marauder. And it looks a little sillier. The amount of commitment required just to fight with the Ultras. They got to get right up in your personal space. And despite the speed upgrades and the creep, that's not something that they can always do easily. Oh. What is it? Especially with Korean Terrans. Feels like the meta shifts mostly at the whims of what the Korean Terrans are doing this month. Sometimes they just skip. I'm talking Maru, I'm talking Beyond, I'm talking Cure. The top 3 Terrans who aren't Clem. Pretty much in that order. They just skip the Hellion Banshee phase and say, actually, I wanted to micro Marines, Marauders, and Medevacs the whole time. It can work, but it always feels like you're trying to skip the early game and go right into a macro game. Against Zerg, that's exactly what Zergs want. Speaking, 1/3 Zerg myself. All right, some of my best friends are Zerg. Desperately, Zergs want to avoid the worker harassment phase. Okay? All right. Any game where you're not getting poked by cloaked banshees when you take 2 steps away from your hatchery, any game where Hellions aren't lurking right outside to incinerate your Zerglings, any game where a Liberator isn't going to find the 4 pixels that Queens can't fight against it without stepping their weird toes into range, okay? Any of those games, it actually feels like you're playing Zerg. Now, historically, the double medevac and the continued pressure style is great for Terran as well. Okay, but it does rely on gaining momentum before the Zerg maxes out. If you don't do that, it's hard to regain it in any fashion. Knocks out a creep tumor, so that's something. Not much. Here we got the Hellions. This time around, it's going to be the Destiny Cloudfish build. The barracks, the factory, the starport. Access to Hellions and likely Banshees. So we'll see if Cure's trying to get more original today. Pop some more drones. Banshees on the way. The Hellions darting into the 3rd base. 1 drone. We'll pay. No, I take it back. Zerglings rip apart the Reaper. Drone dodges into a Spore. there an overlord nearby? No, but it's gonna be cloaked banshees. The Zerglings. The Hellions were waiting. Gets up the ramp and spots. The hero Zergling gets up the ramp and spots the starport with the tech lab upgrading. And Scarlett immediately starts a lair. Should have some spore crawlers out there momentarily. Actually, kind of surprising she doesn't. Now adding them, trying to maximize that time. Because remember, every time you build a spore crawler, you kill/promote a drone. The end result being that drone is no longer mining anymore. It's really up for debate by the philosophers whether the drone is happy with that outcome. But really the end result... Wow, the timing is perfect. Spore finishes the moment the Banshee gets within range. The Queens are here to politely yet firmly drive it away. And behind it? Oh, please, give me Mutas. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be Mutas, but... It's on the table. That's a lot of gas. 3 bases of gas? We're waiting. Enough for double upgrades. Roach speed is on the way. That doesn't rule it out. The Hellions. Cloaked Banshees in position, not revealing themselves. I think intentionally. There is an Overseer out there, but Scarlett, I think, noticed the Banshees and was anticipating them moving into the main. Roach Ravager with upgrades. Overseer. And the Queens, slightly out of range of the Spore Crawler, will be hunted down by the Banshees, but Scarlett mitigating the damage for the most part. Infestation pit is on the way. Even quicker than last game. Well, this time around, you don't need as many roaches to defend, because there's not going to be as strong a push. Or at least, wait, where are the medevacs? Here we are. Scarlett able to get up to 80 drones. The creep spread now starting to work its way out. You're notably not going to have combat shield with this push. I don't think that's a mistake. He's still working on Stam, but the Zerglings get in right on time to undercut. Combat shield was queued up afterwards. Scarlett has to know the army's on the way across based on the fact that nothing came back besides the Banshees to defend. Armory is about to complete. Backs off completely on seeing the Roach Ravager. Just trying to draw out some extra units, but Scarlett's economy is already, maybe not where she wants it to be, but already where any Zerg would be happy with. 80 drones at 7.5 minutes, with a hive on the way, with infestors in production, with a baneling nest and double upgrades. All right, don't get greedy. Don't ask for more. Maybe hope for it, but like, don't push your luck. The Marines out on their own. Now, without that combat shield, the... Brenda, watch out! I'm watching, Susan. I have eyes, too. Well, we don't... Based on... No. No. I'm not dealing with it today. All right? I am not in the mood. Are you ever in the mood? All right? That your husband says that. Hey! Sorry, I am... I blacked out for a moment. 3 hatcheries in production. Cure, again, gonna try to put the pressure on with the medevacs. And again, Scarlett, with more than enough units to defend on either flank. The drop's coming out, and Scarlett notices first, whips out the corrosive bile, and knocks out the Marines. And again, Scarlett's gonna get to hive, almost uncontested. Gonna have 4, 5, 6 hatcheries. And 84 drones. Will she remember adrenal glands this time? Yes! Probably noticed by the end, but... And the Ultralisk Cavern is on the way yet again. Right off the bat. And again, a great scenario, assuming she survives the 200 supply push. Here comes Cure. He's going to have 2-2. Plenty of siege tanks. The Queens! This time around, somehow they get away. Ooh, just in the nick of time. There are 2 Vipers in production, but this is a very scary Terran army. 3, 4, 5. There's plenty of siege tanks. Corrosive Bile comes out. Scarlett knocks out 2 tanks at a time. A convenient combo. But if she has to give up this base, it's probably a better move than trying to fight without Vipers. Single Zergling on the other side. Might get a SCV or 2. The Vipers gathering energy somewhere at the natural. Trying to crush through the army. Another wave of Corrosive Bile knocks out another tank. Banelings rolling in. Cure eats a hit. And Scarlett may be able to defend this with some reinforcements. Another volley gets 2 medevacs as well as a siege tank. Oh, baby, a triple. Cure grinding forward. Still making progress, but Scarlett making him pay a heavy price for it. And the Vipers are here with near full energy. The Zerglings, no adrenal glands for a few more seconds, but blinding clouds on the tanks. They can't see anything, and they can't fire at it either. The tanks almost entirely dismantled. More siege tanks coming up. The bio army still a lot to deal with, but it's thinning out quickly. The medevac count is down to 2. The siege tanks in retreat, and Scarlett has held. Chitinous plating is on the way. 9 more drones. Now, Cure does have a 4th base up and running. Wow, you're gonna get the turn on the low. 11 more. That's just gratuitous. Gonna be over 90 drones. Parasitic bomb. That's a dead medevac. Five Ultras in production. That full Zerg swarm. Way too many. Definitely rapid fire creep tumors, but it's good to have dreams as the queen. Checked off all the boxes and said the job was finished, and that's why you always got to get a second opinion. Nidus is on the way. Ultralisk speed as well. So, despite how relatively comfortably Scarlett has defended the attack so far, 120 supply of well-upgraded Terran can spiral out of control very quickly. It doesn't matter. You don't need ghosts. You don't need liberators. You usually want them. But if Scarlett comes in from the wrong angle, it's going to be an incredibly tough time, and I'm sure Cure is acutely aware of it. But Blinding Cloud, Planetary, Siege Tanks, Ultras cleaving through the front line. Tank yanked into it as well. Will be taken out alongside. The Bio Ball, trying to deal with it. Knocks out 2 of the Ultras, but the Planetary Fortress is worth the trade. 11 SCVs go down with it. Part of the reason that was so successful is Cure split off 3 medevacs in order to deal with the base to the north. Gets the hatchery, but gaining new locations to mine from is significantly harder for Cure right now than Scarlett. And here comes the army yet again. The Marines and Marauders left behind. They'll expect some of us in the wreckage, brothers. The Ultras chewing through. The Zerglings wrapping around. There's not even a Ghost Academy. Cure with 20 supplies still in the medevacs. Dropping out mid. That's it. Scarlett with a decisive 2-0. That game looking more one-sided than a Mobius Strip as she just runs over the field. Cure unable to get anything started, and Scarlett ends him a lot quicker this time around, bringing us so quickly into our bonus game. Our anti-spoiler bonus. You thought Cure would be able to fight back. Obviously, Scarlett's not going to 2-0 the GSL finalist. Well, you were wrong. So was I going in expecting... I thought good games, but maybe not this one. Scarlett versus Max Pax. Our anti-spoiler game today. I believe this was the next round of the Pigosaur Monday night tournaments. Make sure to check out Pig if you get an opportunity, helping support and put on incredible tournaments all year long. Literally could not do it without him and people like him. So hopefully you've enjoyed. And it's interesting that Scarlett is, she seems to be playing more actively again. Not in everything, but in weekly tournaments, qualifiers. Now, what does that say about Zero Space? I don't know. Oh, somewhat related, Pig also. A consultant, I believe is the term. There's been some debate over the terminology. Not like a full-time employee, but helping actively build the game. But it's been a little while since they've had a beta, and honestly, I don't think we're at the point where multiplayer balance is a priority. I think we've seen from other aspiring RTS that focusing and locking into multiplayer 1v1 balance, while it might be good for gaining likes and subscribes and putting entertaining gameplay out there, the proportion of people playing that game mode to watching it, I'll just tell you right now, more people watched this channel last month by about 2 and 3 times than played 1v1 matches in SC2. And believe it or not, not all the people playing 1v1 matches in SC2 are speaking English and watching those videos. So, shout out to my non-English speaking viewers. Kamsahamnida, gracias, danke. Now, of course, that would be very odd context, but here we are. How do you say like and subscribe in Wingdings? No, we're not doing gestures. Come up like ASCII signs. We're in Protoss versus Zerg. This matchup in general and specifically has been quite difficult for Zergs. Even Serral struggling against arguably less high-level Zergs lately. And the closest player in style of the top level I put to Scarlett would be Serral. Alright, that Serral macro style. Like, you have the dark... Rest in... Okay, not rest in peace, but rest in retirement. And by retirement, I mean obligatory military. You have the dark style. He's not dead. Alright, thankfully. His spirit lives on. He has his obligatory military service, unfortunately. It actually happened. We weren't sure it was going to happen. I think Dark was. He was just, trying to put it out. Hopefully, there's something to come back to in a year and a half, 2 years. And he's expressed interest in doing so, but his philosophy and his style will live on, hopefully, because otherwise everyone's just doing a poor impression of Serral, which doesn't usually work out. But the heavy macro defensive and late game style, I mean, Serral and Scarlett, both very much favoring it in every matchup. It's just not a great time for it. Not with the accessibility of energy recharge for the Protoss, even after going Void Ray first and knocking out that first Overlord. Slapping an extra 100 energy into the Oracle and allowing it to do the job of like 2, maybe 3 Oracles right off the bat has made it very difficult for Zerg players to do anything besides, well, just like Terran versus Zerg. Sit back and for the first 5 to 7 minutes of the game get bullied and harassed. But, well, that is the way of things. Twilight Council on the way immediately after 1 Oracle. What's this, Glaives? Oracle energy recharged. More than enough. Ooh. The Queens. 4 drones dead without even doing that much damage. And the Overlord gets... Oh, Overlord taken out by a Void Ray in the main, but the Zerglings... Is that enough Zerglings to... I don't think so. If the Oracle gets recalled... It's a bit of an awkward one, because Scarlett may actually be able to just chew up the Adepts. This should not kill the Nexus, but getting 2 Adepts and doing some damage to the Nexus is kind of surprising. Forces the Oracle to reactivate, which is mildly annoying. That was an optimistic gas guzzler. Actually taking down... Nope. Get off my creep! Bitch. Karen, no! Sorry. I blacked out. Layer on the way. Scarlett building not 1, not 2, but 3 more hatcheries. And 15 drones. Because... why not? That is suicidal greed. But if she gets away with it... is it just going to be mass Zergling? I think so. What else are you going to do with that many hatcheries? Pretty much whatever you want if you have the economy, but... +1 melee is on the way. +1 ground weapons as well as blink for max packs. That Hydra is done. Very important for helping to deal with a more... with a critical mass of stalkers, which eventually will get there. When there's so many stalkers that they can protect each other from Zerglings by their just physical size, which your mother manages to do on her own, it becomes much more difficult. No matter how many Zerglings you have, it's not going to be enough. One of the upsides here is that there's only one Oracle, and it's already out of energy. So not as many stasis, not nearly as much to burn through the Zerglings. And I was commenting on how Scarlett was adding so many drones. But MaxPax is sitting on 71 probes, getting Storm, 4 more gates, robotics facility, and +1 attack. MaxPax has everything he wants. Maybe besides a 4th base. But that's next on the agenda. $14 Hydras in production for Scarlett. Without Storm, the Hydra should be enough to force back the Stalkers. The Zerglings will counterattack up to the north side. Might be able to get a cancel on the 4th base. That's a big commitment of the vast majority of the Zerglings. Might be enough of the Stalkers to snipe off the... we're going to call it the 4th base from Scarlett, but it's the alternative 4th. The Zerglings, they're still going. There's no reason to come back now. The Cyber Core... things getting more complicated. Recall. Recall to the main. It was the only base with energy for recall. The Cyber Core goes down. And, well, that is not ideal. Slowing down the additional Stalker production. We're at the phase where MaxPax clearly wants to add Templar and charge lots as opposed to just more Stalkers, but obviously you have to rebuild that Cyber Core. Can't even build shield batteries without it. The Hydra count, 17 of them. There's not that many units for MaxPax, though Storm is done. Those Templar are worth a lot. Pre-splitting, but the Hydra's wading through it. Zerglings to the north side will overrun. Enough Hydras survive. The Archon's in a precarious position, pushed forward by a traitorous Zealot. The Hydra's still working on it. The Zerglings actually get in through the natural. I think they cut down all the Zealots. 3, 4 probes will go down. Most importantly, Scarlett is keeping MaxPax off a 4th base. MaxPax has 9... they lost 9 workers and has 1,400 minerals in the bank. He was supposed to be spending on 1, more upgrades, and 2, setting up the 4th base. Cannon, shield, batteries, all that. But he hasn't really had the space to do so. Now Scarlett, well, she's sitting on 63 drones, which is not a booming economy, but it's more than enough to keep building Hydras and Lings, as long as that is all she's focusing on. It's a very hard call to make. Kind of, cutting off any sort of other tech progression and focusing entirely on unit production. It's effectively all in. But so far it's paying off. There's a lot of Hydras. Storm's trying to soften up more of them. The Zealots will drop out of the prism, and the Queen will be hunted down. Zealots will get some of the precious drones here. The Hydras, in a good position, but the Storm softens up more. More Hydras from the south side. That was the last Storm. A couple of Archons merging in a less than ideal position. One of them will be taken out. Another one already going to take some damage on the way. Zerglings in the natural. 5 drones dead in the bottom left corner. The Hydra's still holding, microing back. They have speed, but off creep, they're struggling. The Archons will clean up the rest, but 22 probes dead. MaxPack's actually taking real economic damage here. Focused in too many sides at once. Scarlett with an average of a casual 820 APM. What? 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 What are you doing? MaxPack's at a balmy 368. And Scarlett now up 20 supply. MaxPack losing probably a dozen more probes than he needed to, but just dropping the ball on the defense. He was microing the Zealots on the other side. Is the Prism still alive? No! It was also taken out. Storms on the Hydras. But Scarlett knows she's done a lot of damage and kept the 4th base from coming up. So without a huge economy, MaxPax can't warp in enough units to zone out the small groups of Hydras. Zealots canceled on warping. More Zerglings trickling through. The Templar, just now enough energy for Storm. Scarlett wades through it, targets down the Immortal. And MaxPax, GG! In fact, no G's. MaxPax may be a bit unhappy about that one, but getting run down by Scarlett with 5 hatcheries. What a day for Scarlett. I honestly just wanted to see what MaxPax versus Scarlett. Cure and MaxPax having a rough one, but both of them played right down the center of what you expect from them. And Scarlett took it above and beyond. Definitely her signature quality over quantity style, but almost an order of magnitude more. I don't think I've seen that many ultras. The ultras per minute, the UPM. Well, no ultras in that last game, but the sentiment was there. Well, is Scarlett back? I certainly hope so. And I hope at least it made your day a little bit better. Thank you for watching. If you got the means of motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free. At least for now. Thank you to our mule tier patrons, bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jiggy, Devin Door, Kate, Mario, Random Guy in Suit, and everyone. Glad you still enjoy. I'll see you next time. Good luck, have fun. Stay chill. It happened.